Hello and welcome to the Youth Destiny Nucleus podcast, the hub for young minds aspiring to become great leaders. Of course, Youth Destiny Nucleus operates on four value standpoints: PCTA, purpose, character, young talent, and of course, academic excellence. Youth Destiny Nucleus is a youth organization established with the intent of helping young people find the balance between discovering their purposes, making the right career choice, and maximizing their potential. All right, the Youth Destiny Nucleus podcast is dedicated to sharing youth savvy subjects and topics that will help young people, teenagers, and youth alike become the best they can be. We have a couple of episodes in store for you for the year 2026. I'll say you please do well to hit the subscribe button, turn on the post notification bell. It will be quite exciting all through the year 2026. We'll be beginning our conversation with the topic, the champion mindset. The champion mindset, and we actually have a plethora of episodes under this particular series. It's a series that was actually held towards the end of last year. We want to, through this conversation, we want to teach youngsters nationwide and even globally, hopefully, what it means to truly be a champion and to excel in life for sure. So sit tight. Get yourself a soft drink, get the writing material, and get ready for an exciting conversation. Welcome back once again to the Youth Destiny Nucleus podcast. The Champion Mindset is a 10 topic series where we discuss what it truly means to be a champion as a youngster. Of course, a champion in your academics, that's your schoolwork, a champion in your finances, a champion in the exercise and practice of your God-given talent, and a champion, generally speaking, in every facet of your life. So in order not to talk too much, let's get right into the content. A link to the PDF copy of this particular series will be dropped in the comment section of this video. Do well to hit the subscribe button once again so you get notified every time we drop new content. Week 1, the champion mindset. It's important you understand that every week has its unique topic and it has its unique champion quotes. All right, you'll be hearing something called champion quote. The champion quote is sort of like a highlight quote that emphasizes the main message under discourse every single week. So the champion mindset, week 1. Let's get right into the main conversation. All right, the champion mindset, week 1. The topic for week 1's conversation is who is a true champion? Who is a true champion? And the champion quote for week 1 is, your greatest enemy is not your hater, sin, or the devil. Your greatest enemy is ignorance. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That 9-letter word, ignorance. All right, you want to make sure you look out for that word. The champion quote once again is, your greatest enemy is not your hater, sin, or the devil. Your greatest enemy is ignorance. Who is a true champion? Topic number 1, week 1, the champion mindset. We'll be going through this paragraph by paragraph and highlighting the major lessons as we progress. Sit tight and let's get right into the main stuff. Paragraph 1, it says, this week we are diving deep into the concept of winning, especially as it concerns our journey through life as teenagers and youth. To truly become a champion, it is necessary for us to have some conceptual clarifications to understand what it truly means to be a champion. If you don't know what it means to be a champion, you might spend your teenage years chasing shadows, only to get to the end of the road and discover that you've wasted your time, years, and resources. All right, this is just an introductory session on the main gist. And here, what's happening here is the material strives to emphasize the importance of, understanding what it truly means to be a champion so you don't chase unnecessary things through your life. I hope you all know that not every good thing is right for you. There's a clear distinction between good things and the right things. There are some very nice things, some very flashy things that, of course, generally speaking, morally speaking, sometimes even spiritually speaking, is good. By definition, they are good, but they are not for you. All right, so it's really important that we begin with some conceptual clarifications, meaning we want to truly define what being a champion means as we forge ahead. Because one of the most devastating things that can happen to you as a youngster is for you to expend your God-given energy, gifts, and talents chasing the wrong things. All right, it's quite distressing. It's important you know that one of the most priceless commodities you have as a youngster is time. All right, just like you can invest money, in a business and get returns. You can also invest time and get returns as well. Paragraph number 2 says, unfortunately, with a rather heavy heart, I admit that many teenagers and youth are wasting their years fighting the wrong battles, battling false demons and wasting their efforts. It's quite sad. Paragraph number 3 says, you can lose money and recover it in due time. You can lose friends. Who cares? Change is constant. You make new and better ones in future. You can lose virtually everything and recover them subsequently. But the thing with time is, we are still reading from the manual, paragraph number 3. Once lost, it seldom can be recovered, meaning it cannot be recovered, generally speaking. Okay, when you lose time, time is lost for good. The manual goes forward to say this is why it is important that you all pay close attention to the teachings in this series. All right, next paragraph says, one of the worst things that can happen to you is to lose time chasing the wrong things and fighting the wrong battles. The next paragraph says, I stumbled upon an old video. Of course, this material is authored by my humble self. So the material goes on to say, I stumbled upon an old video by Dr. Myles Munroe of blessed memory, where he was preaching. In the video, he said, the greatest enemy of man is not Satan. The greatest enemy of man is not sin or even death or poverty. The greatest enemy of man is ignorance. It's quite shocking, right? To find out that one of your greatest enemy as a teenager, as a youngster, is ignorance. Ignorance of various important parts of life which we'll be touching on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The next paragraph says, the 9-letter word called ignorance can be your undoing in life if you don't take caution. All right, it goes further to say ignorance can keep you bound in chains to mediocrity and failure in your schoolwork. Ignorance can keep you financially bankrupt with no hope of ever earning a reasonable living for yourself. Ignorance can impede your growth and development as far as your talents and natural gifts are concerned. What this in a nutshell means is that there are certain things you have to know so you can excel and in the long run become a champion in your academics, in your finances, in your talents, your gifts, your business, every aspect of your life. There are secrets, there are principles that guide success in this field. If you do not master these principles, you'll be in trouble. And so ignorance of these principles can mean failure. All right, the next paragraph says, your greatest enemy is not your haters or the devil. Your greatest enemy, as Dr. Myles Munroe rightly asserted, is ignorance. Ignorance of your purpose on earth. Now, what do we mean by purpose? Purpose is simply the reason for the existence of a thing, the reason for the creation of an invention, all right, or the reason for the creation of a human being. The particular reason you were set on planet Earth is called your purpose. Everyone has a purpose. All right, from human beings to the creeping things, the decomposers, we all have a purpose. Speaking in context of biological science, we know, of course, that decomposers have a very significant role in the nutrient cycle. When dead organisms begin to spend some time on the Earth's crust, the decomposers are responsible for breaking down the matter that constitutes their body, so the cycle of life can continue. If these minute organisms like decomposers can have a purpose, how much more you listening to me? We all have our unique purpose, and your purpose is simply that particular problem your Creator God Almighty had in mind when He created you and introduced you into planet Earth. Okay, the next paragraph says, the subtlest way to waste your youthful teenage years, when you are otherwise supposed to be laying a solid foundation for your later years, is to frolic around purposelessly, laying hands on anything and everything in vain. Ignorance of your purpose leads to wasted time, wasted talents, wasted resources, and wasted destiny. Remember, I said not every good thing is right for you, so it's important you find your path, discover your purpose, and expend your energy in the fulfillment of this particular intricate purpose. The final paragraph says, a true champion is one who has discovered their purpose on earth and as a consequence has defeated this great foe called ignorance. I believe I should repeat the final paragraph as we wrap up the first part of our video. A true champion is one who has discovered their purpose on earth and as a consequence has defeated this great foe called ignorance. Alright, so that was quite an interesting one. Who is a true champion? A true champion is simply one who has discovered their unique purpose on earth and are living their life on a daily basis, expending their energy in the discovering in the fulfillment rather of that particular unique purpose. The champion mindset week 2. The next topic on our hands, the champion mindset week 2, is titled How to Win. All right, how to win. And the champion quote for week 2's conversation is, "He who puts away today's pleasures for tomorrow's reward is a fool for the moment, but a champion in waiting." I will proceed to say that again so it can sink properly. The champion quote says, "He who puts away today's pleasure for tomorrow's rewards is a fool for the moment, but a champion in waiting." Let's proceed to look at the contents of this week's conversation. Paragraph number 1 says, "Self-control in the face of intense desires and urges is one of the key indicators of a champion. Unfortunately, most teenagers and youth of my generation have an erroneous mindset and are flawed at so many levels, especially as it concerns their success in life and how to truly win." This is sadly true. Self-control is really, really important in ensuring success in life. You don't have self-control, you don't know how to delay gratification. For example, savings is a very practical example that proves the importance and significance of self-control. You can decide in your mind on New Year's Eve that you ensure to develop yourself financially, and you begin to save some token in some saving box. A lack of discipline will make you break open that box on the 3rd of January and buy some junks and eat it after school. But someone that has the ability to control themselves will go through the temporary discomfort for the greater good, and by December they break their saving box and they have loads of money to invest and spend on whatever they want. Paragraph number 2 says, "By reason of what I do, I have the privilege of interacting with young people every now and then, and on several occasions they prove this obvious point to me. Most youngsters don't know how to truly win in life." I believe this series is priceless to your journey as a youngster. If you don't know what it truly means to win, then are you really living? You want to ask yourself that particular question, because everyone listening will, as a matter of fact, admit to me that they want to be a champion. They want to win in life. All right, the next question is, what does it mean to win? If you do not understand that in its fullness, then you are not really living. The next paragraph says, "On one occasion, I had a really bright young lad reach out to me regarding struggles he was having with his parents. In his words, they never miss an opportunity to ridicule him and make him feel small. No matter how hard he tried to mend things, they were always critical of his every action and every move. He felt really drained, and this was taking a negative toll on his life in general, his academics, his social life, and in every possible regard. He could no longer focus well in school. He began isolating himself from friends and was contemplating giving up on life and going rogue completely." This is, as a matter of fact, a true life story of a youngster, one of my younger ones. I was mentoring. He reached out to me concerning his struggles, all right, and it was negatively impacting his academics and other significant aspects of his life. So he reached out to me for guidance. And the material goes on to say, "I had a lengthy phone call conversation with him on this matter and advised on the need for self-control and patience when it comes to dealing with parents. He promised to heed my advice and the conversation ended. A few weeks along, I heard a report that he engaged in a physical fight with his father and has soon absconded from home." That's quite a sad one. He did not take my advice at the end of the day, and one quarrel with his dad escalated and he engaged in a physical altercation, a physical fight with his dad, and he ran away from home. That's an example of a youngster that does not truly know what it means to win and to win well in life. Next paragraph says, "This is a typical example of a teenager who does not know how to win and to truly win in life." Of course, I'm not writing from a critical standpoint, nor have I been one to judge people for their actions without knowing the context of their situation. But one thing is certain: fighting with your parents or exchanging words with them does not reflect a true winner's mentality. Giving up your academics and spiraling down a path of mediocrity and failure is obviously not a champion's mindset. I don't think I need to buttress this further. During your teenage years and your youthful years, there will be that tendency to get into physical altercations with your parents, but you need to have a large heart, have a mindset of a true champion, and endure. All right, there are times that you are outrightly wrong, so you take corrections. Humble yourself enough to take corrections. The moment you begin to engage in physical fights and altercations, you have departed from the pathway of true champions. The next paragraph says, I was once a teenager myself, of course, and I'm not ignorant of the many challenges and hurdles that teenagehood brings. I've experienced my own fair share and gathered some experience which I'll be sharing with you in this series. The next paragraph says, in the next few weeks, I'll be sharing 3 characteristics or mindset of true winners. For a teenager to truly win, they must live their lives in alignment with their divine purpose. All right, don't be swayed by your friends and acquaintances who are living flamboyant and reckless lives. They may appear to be having all the fun currently, but trust me, the manual says, they are so far from the fulfillment of their purpose that it's almost pitiable. Those your friends you are currently admiring for living woke lifestyles, they are so far from the fulfillment of their purpose. If you are in constant altercation or quarrel with your older siblings, your parents, your teachers, downgrading them, looking down on them, then you have departed from the pathway of the fulfillment of purpose. Remember, we said in week 1 that a true champion is one who has discovered their purpose and are actively trying to fulfill their unique purpose. The next paragraph says, for you to truly fulfill your purpose and live in the fullness of your purpose, you must think long term and not short term. It's important we take note of this. You think long term. For the young man I told you about who had an altercation with his dad and ran away from his house, if he had thought about the long-term consequences of engaging, possibly slapping or blowing his dad, he most probably would have decided against taking the action he took. So true champions think long term and not short term. All right, true winners are far-sighted. They think long term in all their dealings. When you are faced with intense provocation and temptation, whether it be a provocative parent or older sibling, you say or do anything rash. Before you say or do anything rash, all right, you pause for a few seconds and ask yourself what the long-term effects of lashing out will be. Doing this helps keep you within the lines of sanity and common sense, and shields you from making grave mistakes that can cost you vital relationships with your parents, close friends, and acquaintances. It's important you think long term before you yell back at your mother or you yell back at your father or your older sibling. You want to ask yourself, what will be the consequences of this particular action? When you do that, you give yourself the benefit of doubt and you restrain yourself. So winners think long term and not short term. The final paragraph says, when you're starting out your life, 2 of the best things you can do for yourself are to, number 1, control your appetite for comforts. Control your appetite for comfort. That affinity and that love for sweet things, for sleep, for chit chats and gist even during classes and lectures, your affinity for comfort, you have to bring it under control if your desire is to go very far in life. And secondly, it says your affinity for pleasure. All right, let's organize this properly. Let's repeat the entire paragraph so we can get clarity. It says, when you are starting out your life, 2 of the best things you can do for yourself are to control your appetite. That's number 1. You control your appetite for comfort and pleasure. It's very important you note this. And number 2, you develop self-control. We began this particular conversation, this week's conversation, by saying, let's go back to the champion quote so we can get this. It says, he who puts away today's pleasures for tomorrow's reward is a fool for the moment, but a champion in waiting. True champions practice what we call delayed gratification. You are only going to go through the discomfort for a temporary period, and in the long term you win and become a true champion in life. All right, the champion mindset, week 3. The topic for week 3's conversation is how to win part 2. How to win part 2. It's sort of like a build up on the previous week's conversation. So we can say week 2's conversation is how to win part 1, and week 3's conversation is how to win part 2. The champion quote for week 3's discussion says, true winners have a moral compass. Their moral compass guides their every action, tells them when to act and when to exercise some restraint. True winners think consequences and not feelings. This is a build up on what we discussed in the previous teaching. You remember we learned that true winners and by consequences true champions think long term, not just short term. Before they take any rash decision, they pause and ask themselves what the effect of their choice will be. The first paragraph says, last week we discussed one key property of a true winner. They think long term. Today we pick up from there as we consider two additional characteristics common to proven champions, young people who truly know how to win. Property number two, we've already covered property number one in last week's teaching, which is true winners think long term, not short term. Alright, so property number two is true winners think and act based on consequences and not feelings. True winners think and act based on consequences and not feelings. It goes on to say, when I look at a teenager or a youth and I analyze their affinity for fun and pleasure, it serves as one of the biggest predictors of success and failure. If you are easily tempted by pleasure and sweet things that make the body feel good regardless of the costs on your future, then there is a very narrow chance of winning in life. Excessive affinity for sweet things makes you a vulnerable target for deceit. I believe we touched on this in the previous teaching. The bottom line here is that true winners think and act based on the consequences of their actions. It's quite similar to what the first property is, the properties of winners or the characteristics of true winners. You act based on consequences, not what you are feeling in the moment. If we are to act based on all our feelings, trust me, the world will come to an end in 5 minutes. Just give the world 5 minutes and let the President of the United States of America act impulsively based on what he's feeling at the moment. He could decide to press the nuclear weapon button and end an entire civilization. Alright, so true winners think and act based on consequences, not fleeting feelings and emotions. Alright, the manual goes on to say, let's take a very practical example. Smoking cigarettes. By your peers' standards, it might be dope, it might look cool, and it might make you look accepted before your friends. Alright, but if you pause for a moment and think about the long-term consequences of smoking on your respiratory system, you will most probably decide not to smoke. Alright, this is a practical example of what it means for you to think about consequences and not just act based on your feelings. Characteristic of champions or winners. Number 3 is true champions flock around other champions. True champions flock around other champions. And the manual says, I've learned from experience that 70% of our success and 70% of our failure in life is attributed to the types of friends and leaders we are affiliated or connected to. This is a very powerful one. Alright, 70% of your success in life in general or your failure will be determined or influenced by the kind of friends you flock around on a regular basis. It's important that we are careful about this. The manual goes on to say, the wrong association can cost you losses in more ways than you can imagine. The next paragraph says, a couple of years back, while I was schooling and residing in the school hostel, I had a young roommate who happened to be a fresher. I observed over time that he exercised no discretion when it came to friends. Thus, anyone or everyone could be his friend. At random times of the day, random people just strolled into our room and reached straight to his bunk and his locker, wasting and consuming his foodstuff and sometimes money. On one fateful day, while one of his stray friends stopped by to prepare what I suspected was gari mixed with marijuana, using a hot plate which was prohibited at our school hostel, the school hostel porter stormed in. My roommate's bunk was marked and his bed was seized. The matter quickly escalated and the porter threatened to take the issue to the desk of the Dean of Student Affairs. For those of you who have stayed in boarding houses or in hostels at institutions before, you know that once they take your matter to the Dean of Student Affairs, you are done for. The manual goes on to say, I had to step in that day to persuade the porter to let go. The porter was insistent, but I was finally able to persuade him to forgive and let go of the issue. This is a practical example of why a true champion must be extremely cautious or careful about who they let into their personal space. It goes on to say, I pulled my roommate aside and taught him of the dangers of letting just any and every random person into his circle. He did his very best to heed my counsel and he turned out just fine eventually. He's now a graduate, by the way. The final paragraph of week 3 teaching says, true champions think long term and not short term. Of course, that's the first characteristic we looked at in the previous week. The second one says, true champions think and act based on consequences and not feelings. Alright, And finally, true champions hang around fellow champions and are affiliated or connected with great leaders. This is a really powerful one. You do well to adapt this to your life and character, and you will be on your way to becoming a true champion. The Champion Mindset Week 3, How to Win Part 2. Welcome back to this week's conversation. The topic, all right, this is the Champion Mindset Week 4. All right, the Champion Mindset Week 4. And the topic under discuss is the winner who was never born. The winner who was never born. Quite a catchy topic. And the champion quote for week 4's conversation says, "Courage is the manure that ensures the seeds of potential in your life germinate and grow to the fullest." Courage is the manure that ensures that the seeds of potential in your life germinate and grow to the fullest. Alright, the topic once again is the winner who was never born. In a nutshell, if you truly want to be a champion, based on what the champion quote is saying, you will need to maximize your potential. What is potential? Potential simply means unmaximized, undiscovered, or untapped talents, gifts. Alright, unmaximized, undiscovered, or untapped gifts and abilities. Majority of us have quite a number of abilities inherent in us that we have not yet maximized. Okay, we call it potential. And from the champion quote, it says, "Courage is the manure that ensures that the seeds of potential in your life will germinate." If you don't have the courage to act on your gifts and your talents, your potential will remain potential and you will only go so far in your life. Paragraph number 1 says, "In the sciences, in biology, chemistry, as well in biochemistry, as well as in biochemistry, we learn about an interesting concept called enzymatics and enzyme catalyzed chemical reactions." Okay, enzymes are basically organic catalysts. Catalysts are chemical substances that accelerate or speed up the rate of chemical reactions. Some catalysts or enzymes require what we call activators to enable them to function effectively. Without these activators, some catalysts or enzymes may never be able to carry out their functions effectively. We are gathering or gaining some knowledge from the sciences, from biological sciences. We are learning about catalysts, okay? Organic catalysts help speed up chemical reactions that take place in the body of living organisms. And some of these catalysts need aid. They need assistance from other substances called activators, okay? So let's read from the material as we proceed. It says, on the other hand, we have inhibitors. Inhibitors do the exact opposite of what activators do. They impede, obstruct, or hinder and slow down the actions of catalysts, thereby slowing down the rate of chemical reactions. Let's proceed and see where this leads us and how it applies to our conversation. It says, "It will amaze you to find that this exciting concept applies remarkably to our journey of success and becoming champions in life. It is important for every youngster to note that becoming a self-made champion is virtually impossible without catalysts." Alright, just like certain biological processes require catalysts to speed them up in order to function optimally, we also require catalysts to accelerate our movement or ascent to the top in every area of life. The next paragraph says, "This week we'll be discussing one of the most important catalysts for success, courage." The 7-letter word courage. This is a catalyst for success. And on your journey to becoming a true champion, you will need courage, alright? Becoming a champion, as the manual goes on to say, requires courage more than you can ever imagine. Courage is the ability to reach out for opportunities that will take you to the next level of growth in all your endeavors. It can also mean the ability to act on your dreams and aspirations, even in the midst of fierce obstacles and challenges. I've been there before. In 2018, I actually wrote a spoken word poem titled "Dear Fear." There, I spoke about my personal battle and struggle with fear. There were times I missed very nice opportunities to develop myself in terms of my talents, my gifts, and my academics and career generally speaking. But because of the absence of courage, I missed out. I couldn't take that first step, that bold step to reach out to those opportunities. So courage is a catalyst for success. The next paragraph says, "Catalysts need activators to function optimally. Your destiny and your future needs a catalyst to accelerate its manifestation. This catalyst called courage equally needs an activator," this is really interesting, "to function at its peak and help you reach your goals." Let's find out what the activator for for courage truly is. The activator of courage is called character. This is really interesting. Character is the moral force and rectitude that helps propel you towards your dreams and your aspirations. So if you have courage and you don't have character, character is the activator of courage. If you lack character, your courage will become a nuisance. It will make you repulsive to people who are supposed to help you. So don't just go for courage alone without controlling it with the character factor. Character is the activator of courage. You take note of that. The manual goes on to say character is the moral force. All right, I think we have covered that. It says it takes character to take the required steps that will bring success and growth in all your endeavors. It takes character to reach out for opportunities that fuel success. It also takes character to keep courage in check and to strike a balance between being irrational, careless, and being confident and courageous. Character sort of places a control over your courageousness to ensure that you are not being rude or you are not being outrageous about your behavior. The next paragraph says, true champions are courageous. In your academics, you must be courageous. Many of you reading this are smart and naturally endowed with the IQ to become excelling students, but all of this remain untapped potential because of the absence of the required courage to develop a growth mentality and to take up opportunities that will help you grow in every area of life. The manual goes on to say, many of you shy away from opportunities to lead, to take the center stage in life, and to become who you were created to be. You would rather run and hide or remain in the background than courageously chase your dreams. This mindset cannot make you a champion. It's important you understand this. Champions are never scared of stepping outside the lines of their comfort zones. You need courage, and the activator of courage, like we have learned, is character. If you are just courageous and you are bankrupt as far as character is concerned, you become repulsive. You repel people who are otherwise supposed to help accelerate your journey to the top. The next and the final paragraph under this week's conversation says, without courage, a student who is supposed to go on to achieve great things will remain caged with iron bars constructed by fear and mediocrity. And the manual goes on to say, I've seen and worked with a lot of young students who have the potential to reach for the stars, but the absence of these key qualities as outlined in this week's teaching has left them empty and unfulfilled. All right, without courage, there will be this reluctance, there will be this fear to reach out for opportunities, to express yourself, to say your opinions, and you remain mediocre. Now, next week, the concluding sentence here says, next week we will consider the inhibitors of courage and study them in detail. Don't forget, we are actually tapping or gleaning from the knowledge of catalysis or enzymatics in biochemistry. A catalyst is a substance that speeds up or accelerates chemical reactions in the body of living organisms. We know fully well that there are some catalysts that cannot function on their own. They need what we call activators, to help them work better. And we are learning here that the catalyst for success and becoming a champion is called courage. Without courage, you can't become a champion. Then we are learning that the activator of that courage is called character. So you don't just go out there and try to be brave and bold and you are bankrupt of character. You will soon become a nuisance to yourself, your acquaintances and friends, and even to those who are supposed to help you reach the heights of your achievements in life. The Champion Mindset Week 4, and the topic once again, the winner who was never born. If you want to truly maximize and fulfill your potential, then you must find a way to tap into your latent potential. And the only way to do that to the fullest is through courage, courage blended with what? Character. The Champion Mindset Week 4, the winner who was never born.